Ladies and gentlemen, amongst Republicans, there is an absolute storm brewing because I'll tell you what, right now, people are not happy. You see, President Trump has been back in the White House now for precisely 115 days, and while he's been busy working tirelessly to fix our country, the Republican controlled Congress has pretty much done absolutely nothing. Seriously, out of the last 115 days, Congress has only been in session for 52 days, less than half of President Trump's presidency, and it's the congressional Republicans who are making the schedule, specifically House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune. But hey, if you don't think that's a big deal, take a look at this. In the last 115 days, the Republican controlled House and Senate have sent fewer bills to President Trump than any Congress in the last 70 years, meaning that we haven't had a Congress this lazy and ineffective since 1955. And so this is the Republican Congress that President Trump has to work with, and this is the Republican Congress that President Trump has to rely on in order to bring permanence to his America First agenda. In fact, the situation is actually even worse than the congressional Republicans just being in a state of permanent vacation. You see, several of them are actually actively undermining what President Trump is trying to accomplish. And so we're going to break all of that down here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a lot. But okay, check this out. So far, the Department of Government Efficiency has cut over $170 billion worth of waste and fraud out of our federal budget, and while not all of those cuts have to be approved by Congress, some of them do. And so that's why President Trump wanted to include $9 billion worth of these Doge cuts in the upcoming budget reconciliation bill, or as he likes to call it, the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, getting those budget cuts passed through the House doesn't seem to be an issue, but in the Senate, multiple Republicans are actually openly defying President Trump's mandate, saying that they won't vote for these budget cuts. Normally, to pass a bill through the Senate, you'd need a total of 60 votes, pretty much requiring bipartisan support, but due to the nature of this budget reconciliation bill, the Republicans only need 50 votes total, which means that this should be one of the easiest slam dunks in congressional history, considering that right now we currently have 53 Republican senators. However, because of some of the rhinos involved, Republicans in name only, it's looking like this $9 billion worth of Doge cuts aren't going to get included in the bill. Now, to get a little bit more specific here, this $9 billion worth of Doge cuts primarily relates to funding for USAID, NPR, and PBS. So it's hard to imagine that any sane Republican would oppose these things getting cut from the federal budget, but hey, here we are. We've got Republican senators like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell who are just refusing to vote for these Doge cuts altogether, and then there's a couple others who are currently undecided, teetering on the fence. Really, this is all just yet another example of just how much damage all of these rhinos can cause. In a way, they're even worse than the radical progressives. At least with them, you know what you're dealing with, but with these rhinos, they're supposed to be on our side, but then they just decide to randomly undermine the America First movement whenever it's in conflict with their globalist agenda. Here's the reality. By voting for President Trump, Americans overwhelmingly voted for fiscal responsibility, but various Republican members of Congress aren't acting on that mandate. They're either doing nothing while just lazily enjoying their cushy six-figure job in Congress, which has them on vacation half the time, or even worse, they're actively working to undermine the mandate that we all gave President Trump, the America First agenda. Since taking office, the Trump administration has been working tirelessly night and day for almost 4 months now, but as they've been doing that, the congressional Republicans have been doing quite literally nothing that entire time. And so, folks, here's the thing that needs to be said. Right now, the clock is ticking. We have less than a year and a half until midterms, at which point the Republicans are at serious risk of losing the House or the Senate, or God forbid, both of them. And as you all know, if that happens, then President Trump's capacity to make permanent, long-lasting changes to this country is almost entirely reduced because we all know for a fact that none of the Radical progressives are going to help make this country great again. And so here's the truth. Every single day that our current congressional Republicans don't get something done, the radical progressives are really celebrating a victory. Every single day that our congressional Republicans don't legislatively codify President Trump's America First agenda, the radical progressives are winning. Because keep in mind, the next time we have a Democrat in the White House, all it takes for them to undo every single one of President Trump's executive orders is the stroke of a pen. And so this is why the congressional Republicans need to get a grip, get it together, and get to work. Here's something the congressional Republicans need to understand. As far as we're all concerned, their only value is the degree to which they can help enact President Trump's America First agenda. That is it. That is what they are there to do. Their sole and exclusive purpose in Congress is to help President Trump enact the America First mandate that we, the American people, overwhelmingly voted for. And if they refuse to do that, then they might as well just be a Democrat, because by refusing to push the America First agenda, they're having the exact same impact on the country as someone like AOC or Bernie Sanders. You can either help make America great again and put America first, or you can get primaried. Because I'll tell you what, Americans are paying very close attention these days, and we are done tolerating the anti-American behavior of not only the radical progressives, but also of the rhinos as well. Let us all think back to 2017 and 2018 when, very similar to our current situation, President Trump also had a Republican Congress who refused to do their jobs, doing absolutely nothing other than kneecapping every single thing that President Trump tried to accomplish. Now, since then, President Trump has pretty much been able to successfully rebuild the entire Republican Party in the image of America First, so rather than the Republican Party being 90% rhinos like it was back then, now it's only maybe 10% rhinos, but still, the problem persists. And so, folks, this is why I think it's sometimes important to take a short break from destroying the radical progressives like we normally do on this channel in order to make sure that our own party is still functioning properly. To be totally honest with all of you, one of my biggest concerns is that after President Trump is done with his second term, the Republican Party will just slip back into being nothing but a party full of rhinos and neocons. So that is why I sometimes make videos like this. The mission really is to make America great again and to put America first, but in order to do that, we need our elected representatives to actually show up to work and do their jobs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.